Welcome to this week's edition of Stock Breakthroughs. I'm your host, Erin Beal. Did you know that Germany is one of the fastest growing solar power markets in the world? With its feed-in law, 90% of solar modules are tied into the grid. This law permits customers to receive tariffs for the power that they feed into the system. Now, this in turn creates a very friendly atmosphere for solar cell manufacturers. Germany even provided 1.7 billion euros in loans for solar power installations as part of its 100,000 roofs program. Now, there's no doubt that Germany is one of the brightest solar markets in the world. In fact, the Solar Industry Federation says that Germany supplies about 25% of the world's solar cells. Now, that number jumps to 54% when you talk about European share. It's no wonder that the world's largest cell manufacturer calls Germany its home. Sarah Nunnally joins us today to tell us about this German solar powerhouse. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Erin.
Sarah, now can you give us a little bit of history on this company and how they came to dominate this global market?
Sure. In 1999, a big idea threw a small group of people together to make solar cells, and they became Q-Cells AG. In the company's first year of production, it had a turnover of only about €1 million. But just 5 years later, Q-Cells was turning over €539.5 million. In fact, Q-Cells broke even in its second year of production, and that's extreme growth, and that pushed Q-Cells into the #1 position in the solar cell manufacturing in the world. And I don't think it's done yet. Through strategic partnerships like its third of a stake in Everq and its 23.4% in VHF Technologies, Q-Cell is pushing into new markets like Australia and most recently China with its new office in Hong Kong. As of autumn of 2006, Q-Cells had a capacity of 350 megawatt peak hours, and Germany itself had 1,429 megawatts installed capacity. And now that puts Q-Cell's market share at about 24.5%.
Now, Sarah, I know that as solar's popularity has skyrocketed, a lot of these smaller solar companies are having a lot of trouble competing against the big name electronic companies. Now, is that true for Q-Cells?
Well, no, actually, quite the opposite is happening. On February 7th, the company announced it had secured long-term supplies of metallurgical silicon from Elkem Solar, which is a Norwegian supplier. And under the agreement, Q-Cells will receive 800 tons in 2008, 2,800 tons in 2009, 2,400 tons a year from between 2010 and 2018, and that's just for starters. Q-Cells has the option to procure an additional 1,600 tons in 2010 and 25 to 5,000 tons between 2010 and 2018. Now, what this means is that Q-Cells is not only securing its silicon supplies for the next 11 years, it's investing in the world's largest manufacturer of polycrystalline silicon.
But how healthy do the company's fundamentals look right now?
Well, in 2006, the company increased its sales by about 80% compared to 2005. Now, that's an increase from €299 million to €539 million. And that growth also represented an 11% growth quarter over quarter. Now, this revenue increase was because of increased production, and in fact, Q-Cells increased its capacity by 53%. And its current contracts extending into 2008 will produce 739 megawatts.
Well, that sounds pretty good. But Sarah, what kind of projections can we make for the company moving forward?
For the next few years, the company expects to continue growing its market share, especially in Germany, but it's also expanding operations in Spain. Q-Cells expects these important markets to help boost its revenues and net income by about 30% this year. And in 2008, the company wants to see sales revenues at €1 billion, an increase of 85% from current euros, and a number that will increase its income margin to 13%. Now remember, 2008 starts that silicon delivery from the agreement with Elkem Solar, so in 2009, Q-Cells anticipates sales revenue growth of 40%, which is pretty impressive but an attainable goal.
Okay, so what about the stock price? Is this good news already priced in, or do we have a room to run here?
Well, it's not necessarily priced in. Last year was a pretty rough year for the stock. In the beginning of 2006, it looked pretty promising. It grew up more than 100% in the first month alone. But unfortunately, the stock corrected and eventually led to a 31% loss of value by the end of the year, including a one-day drop of over 47%. But Q-Cells is back on the rise, and since hitting a low of 28 euros, give or take, on October 9th, 2006, the stock has risen 62%. And volume is also coming back into the stock, and that means investors are certainly taking notice. And this turn higher could start a run that could provide investors with another 66% in the next 8 months. And I think I'm underestimating Q-Cell's strength here. A move back to its all-time highs of 98.9 euros, that represents a gain of 116%.
That's an excellent projection. So can American investors buy shares on the German exchange, or are you recommending an ADR in the States here?
Well, Q-Cells has a pink sheet listing here under the symbol QCLSF, but we're following the German listing. So when we talk about it in our newsletter, the prices will be in euros and possibly with a U.S. currency conversion. So that price may differ from the pink sheet listing.
Great. So, Sarah, I also understand that Q-Cells is just one of several up-and-coming companies you're looking at. I hear you've just written a brand new report detailing several others that are on your radar right now. Can you tell us quickly a little bit about these other companies?
Well, I really ran the gamut with this report. Besides Q-Cells, I'm recommending a wind power company that could grow 43% in 8 months, a utility company with the potential to gain 42% in 8 months, a biofuel producer that could climb 79% in 8 months, and another more aggressive solar power company that could gain 100% in 8 months. So all told, I'm projecting 330% in 8 months from this basket of companies, and all 5 names will be released in the full report.
Sounds good, but Sarah, unfortunately we're out of time for today. If you'd like to become a member of Sarah's Material Profit service and be among the very first to get access to this new report when it's released, please visit www.materialprofits.com to sign up now. Now, Sarah also writes a free daily e-letter called Market Report. Get your name on her list by visiting www.wavestrengths.com and click on the free Market Report sign-up link on the right-hand side of that page. Thanks for joining us today for Stock Breakthroughs. I'm Erin Beal signing off, and I'll see you back here next week.